Welcome to Spoiler King. My name is
Yo, yo.
Tankcramer, and I'm with Will.
What's
How you
up?
doing? Hey, there you go. Will sharing the stream.
Just love seeing that zombie running for
Yeah,
days, man.
I need to change it up to something else. Um, but man, yeah, man, how you been, man? Nice long weekend. Or not long weekend.
It felt long, man. It was like the
I
last
did, right?
nice weekend of the summer, pretty much. If you had a chance to go to the beach, I did. Finally, man. Freaking COVID messed up everything, man. I couldn't even go to the beach, so I finally got my dip in. Got to,
Yeah.
sink my toes, make a sandcastle. That was pretty cool. I haven't done that since I was like 10.
Nice.
But yeah, man. This weekend was an interesting weekend for movies, I will say.
Yeah. Well, last week when we signed off, we didn't even know what we were gonna talk about, and then
No.
we figured it out like midweek, and we decided to do the new horror movie Malignant, um and it came out Friday, okay, which it usually does. So we watched it like both. I think today we watched it earlier before, right before we went live, so it's like fresh in our minds. So I
Oh
try to
yeah.
avoid any kind of spoilers, anything like any kind of things, but it was so big in a lot of the groups I'm in that they were talking about a little bit, and I couldn't figure out if people liked it or hated it.
Mm.
And it seemed split, so I was going into it very interested. I'm like, it's either gonna be really bad or pretty good. So
Get it?
you
You into it split.
yeah.
kind of
You
kind
yeah.
of two sided, huh? Nah,
Yeah. But oh man, yeah, this was James Yoon. How do you pronounce his name?
I
James
could have
Yoon.
sworn it was James Young. James Wan. James
Yeah,
Wan.
James Wan. Yeah,
Hmm.
he directed it. So
Which James Wan, he's a great director.
oh
He has
yeah,
vision, right? He's done stuff for Fast and the Furious. He's done DC extended
oh
superhero
yeah,
anime.
that's right. He did Aquaman.
Yeah, he did
He
Aquaman.
did Aquaman.
He's done other scary movies as well, other horror projects. So he's done
Oh, the big
The
one,
Saw series.
the Saw
Yeah,
stuff. He did the first Conjuring film, which is still
there you go. Ooh.
amazing.
Oh yeah,
Um, I think he said he directed the second as well. Yeah, while producing all the other ones. So,
nice.
what's up?
Happy Monday.
Happy Monday,
Happy Monday.
guys. Yes, happy spoiler King Monday.
Oh yeah, that's what we do. We're gonna tell you everything that goes on in this film, everything that's worth
Yeah,
noting at least, so that you can get our take and then you kind of digest if you want to see this film. That's kind of what we do here at Spoiler Kings. Again,
yeah.
if you're just catching us, the film is Malignant. Malignant. I didn't know what that word meant till today, so I'm gonna be totally honest. But I
Yeah.
found out thanks to good old dictionary.com. No, I'm not gonna lie. This was okay, I lost it. But malignant means pretty much just very ill, just the worst. Just
Yeah,
malignant. If you had to
yeah.
put a tone to it.
Well, I know, like in the medical field, it's kind of a very bad thing. When they talk about
Ooh.
tumors and cancer, is it a benign or malignant? So you do not want to hear malignant. Because that
So
is not good.
those are two ends of the spectrum. It'd be malignant, and what was the other one? Benign.
Benign
Benign.
means it's just there. It's not really doing anything. So benign's
Okay.
usually good, and then if you hear malignant, you're like, ooh, boy, not good.
Imagine the
So,
next film is named Benign. Hey, nah.
you never know with the way this one ended. Which we'll get into the ending of this one because oh boy,
Yeah,
that was an ending.
it was an
Um,
ending.
yeah, it was. But well, you want to get into the trailer?
Yeah, let's check out the trailer real quick. I'll kind of let you guys in on what the trailer is kind of showing off. I'll read a little brief synopsis, kind of add in more because man, if you Google the synopsis for this movie, this is the reason why you have to watch us, right? We'll tell you the nitty gritty. You're gonna find that if you look at a synopsis for this film, it's gonna be like one sentence long, and it's nowhere
Yeah,
near explaining what the hell it's actually about. not even close. But pretty much, Malignant is a 2021 American horror film directed by James Wan. The film stars Annabelle Wallis as a woman who begins to have visions of people getting murdered, only to realize the events are happening in real life and in real time. So,
Yeah.
with a film like this, the main character name's I think Madison, right? Or Maddie.
Yeah.
And as you see in the trailer, there's so many times where you'll catch just her face, a real close up of her face, and it's done for a reason, right? I think, in my opinion, is to showcase like almost like an image of, if you ever dealt with, what's the word? Oh man, sleep paralysis. You'll see her face, and she's always like just paralyzed. She looks damn near paralyzed, and sleep paralysis happens when you're awake. So this sleep paralysis has nothing to do with this film, but I definitely like kind of jumps in my head when I watch this.
I didn't even think about it, but yeah, that's very kind of true.
Right. So she pretty much after having her fourth miscarriage, right, which is why you'll see a lot of like hospital scenes and whatnot. After having her fourth miscarriage, her baby daddy from the fourth one bashed the back of her head in. He like pushed her so hard, like face just, and got her, right. She just made her bleed and kind of made her unconscious. And after that exact incident is when all these murders started happening. And the whole film is just kind of diving in on why is it happening, who's behind, get it? Who's behind the murders. So many puns for this movie. That's the only reason why I stuck through the whole film. It's just so much funniness. So it's a horror movie, but it made me laugh a little bit.
Yeah, it started off really strong. And horror movies that start off really strong always got me scared because the endings usually suck. We'll get into if this ending sucked or not, but I can't remember. There was another one. There was another scary movie that had there's a bunch of them that had great beginnings and middles, and then you find out who the monster or evil person is, and then it either can kill the entire movie and just puts you off completely, or it can like amplify it and make it better. You're like, ooh, yeah, this one we'll get into how you feel about it. Right, we'll do that. We'll get into that ending before we get into our reviews.
Yeah,
in a little bit. But yeah, man, what were some of the things that like you really liked about this one?
So things that I really liked that kind of stood out to me was the whole like mysteriousness of revealing, who's doing all the killings, because I'm a little slow sometimes, right? I'm not afraid to admit that. So when I was trying to figure it out, I'm like, man, how are these murders happening, and how is our main protagonist being there while all these murders are happening? You'll see in the movie, right? If you watch this movie, you'll see that every time the main character gets like pulled into one of these like vision, it looks like a vision, right? The whole background kind of starts, peeling and like transforming, and you get a whole different setting. It's almost as if like the main character is like a surrogate, and the person who's doing all these killing is like bringing her along for the ride, type deal.
Like one thing, like you see stuff like that in the trailer, and the trailer doesn't spoil the movie, for
once.
And like when like I saw this, I'm like, oh, what, I don't know what's going on. Everything's like melting and stuff like that. Like you said, like it's a really cool like graphic that they show, when she's having this like situation going on. But I guess that's James Wan.
It kind of reminds me, if you've ever played the video games or you've ever watched the Silent Hill movies, very similar experience. Like when shit's about to hit the fan, in Silent Hill, the same thing. The walls start like peeling off, and the whole background and everything gets real dark and whatnot. It's kind of the same thing that happens here, although the difference between what's goes on in Silent Hill and here is, like in Silent Hill, it's actually happening. It's so supernatural that it's like, oh shit, like that's fucked up. While here, the main character thinks they're not even involved with what's going on. They think they're just there for the ride, which is half true.
Well, like what was her sister calls her a psychic, like, or not psychic, but something like that.
Yeah. I liked her sister. I liked the idea that, like, of revealing what's going to happen. The big, reveal was going to be something great, and it kind of did. It kept me going for the whole movie. I'm not afraid to leave a movie in the middle of a movie. Like if I have to pay for something and it's just not performing, then I'm not going to stay and watch the whole thing. But for this one, it kept me along for the ride. I liked the imagery. I liked the colors they used to kind of make it super scary looking. They got all that right. When it comes to horror, they got all of that right. I was even, I hate to admit this, but I'm a moderator for a video game, Dead by Daylight, right, for the PlayStation community. And even in there, they were like, man, this movie has something to it. Like the person, the killer in the movie, they could be a killer in this game and blah, 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 blah. And I was like, man.
Oh yeah,
it's an interesting killer. I will say that. I liked the creativeness. So the killer, right, runs backwards, does everything backwards.
Yeah.
And
well,
I like that. I like the creativity behind like, how do you make a modern day killer? I don't think this has been done before. I've seen like Samara from The Ring, like walk on all fours upside down. That's like upside down. Like and that's also creative, right? That's something that you don't see all the time when it comes to horror. So this one was interesting. I liked the creativeness. I like even the actress. I feel like the main actress, what's her name?
Annabelle, which is kind of funny
Annabelle
too.
Wallace.
Annabelle Wallace.
Wasn't she in the Annabelle movie, if I'm not mistaken? Am I crazy? Or am I thinking the wrong person? So. What was she in, man?
She's a pretty famous, like, British actress.
She was in Annabelle.
Oh, she was in Annabelle. Yeah, damn right.
I knew I recognized her. And that's the only thing. I thought she was in more stuff.
Who was she? Yeah,
I think she was the mom or something. She was like, I think she was also pregnant there. What the fuck? Anyways.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
It's kind of just typecasted as the pregnant lady who keeps.
She looks very weird with the black hair.
Oh yeah, it looks like a straight up wig.
It did, right? I couldn't figure out if it was a wig or not. I mean, I assume it was because she's like pretty blonde and that's pitch black, like dark hair. So it fit the theme of her character, but I think it was a little off-putting at times. Why they like. I get why they did it because obviously that looks like scarier than a blonde, but also like that too. One thing, so I know you were talking about the killer, the way, like you said, they were like backwards and stuff like that. We don't really find out about that until like later on in the film. And there's a scene where she's killing a dude in the bed and she's like on top of him, and the way her arm is moving, I'm like, how are they doing that? It looks so weird because I was like. It didn't look like bad CGI, but it didn't even look like CGI. So I'm like, I wonder if they got like a contortionist or whatever. And then I looked it up, contortionist, and they did. So the killer, the killer was played by Marina Mezpa, who she was on America's Got Talent as a contortionist, and so she's like doing all these things. So I'm like. That makes so much sense on why the killer was able to like move and bend and do all these weird things. It was like they got somebody who knows how to do that, and I'm like, that's something so silly, but like perfect for like a film like this. Like don't spend the money on CGI. Like do something practical. And sure enough, they got like I think she said where is it? Yeah, she was season 14. She got to the quarterfinals and they got eliminated. So she's pretty dang good, if she got to like the quarterfinals of America's Got Talent. But yeah, that was really cool. Just that bed scene when she was killing him and her arm. If you watch like or the killer's arm, now it's her. It's Marina. Her arm is like, and she's like stabbing, but it's like this like weird like thing
Yeah.
she's doing with this arm. It was just so creepy, and I was like, that got me. I was like, that was super cool. Um, that was one thing I really liked was that one scene, because then she crawls over um Madison, the main
Mm,
character, and
yeah.
like she crawls over or the killer crawls over and then starts stabbing the dude, and like the way she's sitting is all weird, and her arm, the
Oh
way she's like
yeah.
stabbing is like weird. I'm like, that's so weird looking. Then sure enough, when I look up the cast, I'm like, that makes sense. That makes so much more sense.
That right there.
That's that's pretty good. That's good. But
I think
but
my
yeah, man.
favorite scene as is probably my last thing. But my favorite scene that really showed off their creativity and the weird way that this killer moves was when the cop, right? I forgot what the cop's name was, but there's only like two cops in this
Uh,
film, but the main guy cop,
Keo,
he yeah.
Keo,
Oh, he
Keo.
had a weird name, right? He did have a
Yeah.
weird name. He yeah, Kikoa.
So
Detective
yeah, there you
Kikoa Shaw, Detective Shaw. And anyways, he goes right. He's told he figures it out before anyone can not figure it out, but he figures out who's the next victim is because
go.
it was three people that were I guess targeted. Two were already killed, and Madison was there to see both of them, right? And she was like, "Hey, go for the second victim." She told the cops like, "Hey, go to this guy's house. You're gonna find the dude like dead if you go." Like she was trying to predict, right? And he was like, "Damn!" And then they lost that guy, right? And then for the third victim, he actually does detective work and pieces how it's gonna happen, when it's gonna happen, kind of. And he goes right by himself, no backup,
Yeah,
and
was playing weird.
he starts to like even fight with her too. He has a gun, man. He has a goddamn gun, and he can't even take this killer down, right? And so the killer, out of nowhere, like breaks out and starts going down the freaking what was it? It looked like an alleyway. It looks like a fire escape. Was it a
Yeah, it
fire
was
escape?
the fire escape, in the alleys and stuff.
That looked crazy because I was trying to look like how is he how is the killer climbing down? I keep
Yeah.
saying he because the killer is referred to as Gabriel. We'll get into that in a second. But I'm like, at some point, I'm like, hey, the killer's walking backwards. Why are they running like that? And
Yeah.
again, my slow ass was like, why is the killer doing that? I don't understand. Like, why the killer needs to do that? And then you piece it together later, like, oh, okay. But that was pretty cool. Like, it might have been CGI for that scene, but again, like
And that
something that you
had
don't
to have been.
see too often. Yeah. So it was cool to see. It was, I want something that's gonna marvel me when I go to the theater, right? I didn't go to the theater, but when I watch this at home, streaming on HBO Max, which is where you can find this movie, I want to be wowed, right? I want to like be stunned by what I see, especially from a horror flick. But that was my favorite piece. What was something that you really disliked in this one, or maybe kind of stood out to you in a negative way?
Ooh. Man, one thing I really disliked was kind of the pacing of it.
Mm.
Like I get it's a scary movie, so it's gotta go pretty quick. Hey, what's up, Omar? Thanks for the 99 stars, bro.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Yeah, man, over on Facebook, giving those stars. Um,
Appreciate it. Hell yeah.
yeah. But yeah, man, the pacing, I felt like it was at the beginning, I felt like it was pretty well paced. In the middle, they started to rush it, and then at the end, they really like pushed it, like hard. And I don't know if that's just like a traditional scary movie kind of pace, because I noticed that a lot with other ones, good and bad.
Yeah.
But I just wish the pacing was like I wish they would have planned things out a little bit more on what to tell is more important, because I felt like towards the early end of the movie, like right before the big ending, like there's a lot of information that the sister gets and goes through, and it was just so quick. I was like, wait,
Yeah.
what? I was like, and I feel like that's got to be like a horror film kind of thing, because they don't want you to think about it too much before it gets into the climax. So
Mm.
I don't know, but that's the one thing with pacing. But
Mm.
with before we get into like the ending and stuff like that, because the ending I think is what makes the movie. You know,
Mm.
but this like it was pretty good. The graphics I liked. I'm trying to think of like bad things I didn't like too much. I don't know. I mean, the acting was not too bad. I know which one. The guy's partner, Shaw's partner, the other
Oh,
detective.
yeah.
I don't like when they do that. When they have like a black person and they play that stereotypical kind of black person.
Yeah.
Like she was like she kind of like had that
Um,
like that the slang was like, oh no, motherfucker. It's
oh, yeah,
like
you're
kind of
right.
like I'm like really, and she was very like Wanda Sykes ish for me.
Damn.
And I was
I can
like,
see
why is she a
that.
bootleg Wanda Sykes? Like that's what I kind of felt like. Like there's a part where she gets like hurt pretty bad, and she's like, "Ah, damn." I'm like, really? Like you do that shit in the 80s, like that's like something you see like in like Lethal Weapon, like. But I don't know. Maybe that's also another thing that played in it because this movie was very it had a lot of old school kind of things in it. I felt like, it was
Mm,
like old
yeah.
school horror, mixed in with some of the new stuff. But it was I was getting, especially in the beginning and the middle, I got a lot of old school horror. The way the camera was moving, the way the bad guy was kind of like going around and stuff like that. I was like, oh, this is good so far. So
Some of the angles at which, yeah, I
yes,
agree. Some of
yes,
the
yes.
angles at
This
which it
movie
was
was creepy.
filmed was like from like a 45-degree angle from the bottom. Like it's kind of, it did some weird angles to where it made you feel uncomfortable in your own skin, even watching this thing.
Yeah,
I think it was done on purpose. I want to say that should have been
yeah.
obviously, but I think that was done on purpose to make you feel uncomfortable. But it worked. I feel like I don't know something that
All right, well,
really.
thanks, Oli, for the 90 stars.
Woo!
Appreciate
Thank
it.
you. Something that could have made this film a lot better. Yeah, the cops could have been better because the whole thing is it's almost like a race, right? It's a race to see of what's going to happen first, the reveal of the killer, or and he's going to do something really bad, or the other thing would be how fast the cops get to the killer before he can have his reveal and do all the bad.
Yeah,
And so like because of that little race, like yeah, like kind of how you said, piggybacking on what you said, you do miss not miss, but you do blast past some information that's so critical information.
yeah,
And I don't know. I know in a horror film you shouldn't have to think too much, but some of the information was pretty good background story. They could have definitely dug into it a little more.
yeah, yeah. But like, yeah, the more I think about it, the more I'm like, that's got to be like a scary film kind of tactic. Like, we're gonna give you all the
Mm.
information really quick, so you don't think about it too much because it's usually stupid and crazy, So they don't want you like, and
Yeah,
that's for any kind of scary movie, And then they're like, oh, and then we're gonna get into like the big finale, And this one
yeah.
definitely kind of played up to that as well. Um, but yeah, man, this I didn't know what to expect coming into the movie.
Mm.
Like I said, I try to avoid any spoilers all week. Um, so I was kind of like, all I really watched was the trailer and read that weak synopsis that's on Google. And
Yeah,
then I remember texting you. I was like, "Hey, you wanna do this one on Monday?" And you were like,
yeah.
"Yeah, cool." I'm like, "All right." HBO Max too, so we can just chill at home and watch it.
Oh yeah.
Um, but I was like, okay, okay. At the end of this movie, I was just very interesting. So you
Yeah.
want to just get into the end of the movie?
Yes,
You
it's
want
right
you want
here.
to get it before we get it? There you go. Basically,
That's the
that's
ending right there. That guy.
that's basically the end of the
So
movie.
if you even have any sense of what's going on behind in my background, you're gonna see that it's Voldemort on the back head of was it Professor Quill? I think it was his name.
I think so.
It's been a while, and Harry posted up. That's just funny. It's just a funny scene. But yeah, this is the main reveal. So we come to find out that the killer is none other than. You want to give it away, man? It's kind of a long story.
That was kind of weird. Because that's a lot of information that they gave you like within really a minute. But the killer is Madison's parasitic twin that got like absorbed in the womb and became like a tumor of sort. So it's like feeding off of Maddie. And when they first show that, I don't know about you, it made me laugh, but also go like, oh, but like laugh. But I'm like, really? Like what? You know, because in the beginning of the film they kind of show it, but it's very, you know, it's hidden and blurred behind curtains and everything like that. But they show something and you're like, oh, okay. And so Gabriel is this twin that she's had, and it's feeding off of her. And I don't know, it's really like the ending is just so bonkers, man. I mean, it is bonkers. I knew it was gonna get a little crazy. I didn't know it was gonna get this crazy because this was like what, you know. And but yeah, it's basically like the parasitic twin that attached itself to Maddie so it can survive in the womb. But you find out that this twin is feeding off of her, so at a young age they had to remove the parasite and remove the cancer, you know. Which kind of like the whole malignant thing, once that kind of like get in, it's like, oh, the cancer is malignant, you have to like, you know, before it like takes over and kills you kind of thing, you have to remove it. So they remove it, but since it was attached to her brain, she literally had another face on the back of her head, like behind you, like that. You know, it didn't look too far off from that either.
It didn't really.
And this like doctor, this big doctor, like headshot or head, you know, big shot. Winds up cutting off the limbs. This thing had little arms, it had like a leg, it had like a full face, like a half of a rib cage. So the doctor cuts off, I think, like most of the twin, which is Gabriel, but they couldn't cut off everything from the brain because otherwise you would either kill or permanently brain damage Madison. So they wind up cutting it off as much as they could and then cramming the rest back into her skull.
That sounds terrible.
It was like, so they take a half, so they have a brain and a half a brain, and then they cram it all into one skull. Like, first of all, just on a medical thing, it's like that's insane. But it's just so funny. And then they show it. That's the best part. They show it. They show like an eyeball on the brain getting crammed back into the skull. This shit was awesome, man. It was so, oh my god. And then how we find out as a viewer is the adopted mom and the adopted sister, or I guess adopted sister, of Maddie. They find out, you know, so they get these hidden tapes that were hidden since the 90s and blah blah blah, and they watch these tapes and they see everything. And when they first show it, the mom and the sister, they like back up like, oh my god.
It's kind of give you a visualization, kind of paint you a picture of what we're talking about, right? It's the person showing their back, right? And you see little baby arms. I literally out loud, I yelled out, "Take my strong hand," when as soon as I got that reveal, because it looked so funny. It's such a funny way to show off your undead twin. I don't even know what to call this thing.
Yeah, I think they said like it was like a parasitic twin or something.
It was a term they used. Yeah.
Should I show the picture?
I say yeah. I see what you're going for too. I say go ahead.
Yeah.
Come on now.
That's the big finale. So this person back here with the strong hand and the little face here, that's Gabriel. So that's the twin. I forgot she used a certain word. but it's basically like her twin that got like absorbed by like Maddie
Yeah.
or attached itself to Maddie to
Yeah.
survive. And they first showed that. So at first they show Maddie talking, and they're like talking, and they're like, "Oh, we had to sedate Gabriel." So you're still like, "Okay, okay, okay." And then she's like, and then the doctor's like, "Okay, I think we should wake up Gabriel." And then she walks behind, and the camera kind of like goes with her, and then you just see this little thing like there, and then like wake it up, and it starts like freaking shit. It's like, oh my god, like
It lost cool
it
points.
was so, but for me, it's so stupid that it's good.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, it's like
Yeah.
he wasn't afraid. He wasn't afraid to get weird with it. You know what I mean? Let me put this down. I don't want. But he wasn't like James Wan Yoon, wasn't afraid to get weird with it. He's like, oh, we're gonna put a weird person on her back, and we're gonna get stupid with it. But somehow they don't really explain how she has these powers.
So what do you mean when you say
Like,
powers?
So she's can like control the electricity, and Gabriel.
Oh, that. Yeah, that I didn't understand.
Yeah, and like superhuman strength. And then Gabriel also can talk through like speakers, like radio, cell phone, and stuff like that. So I'm like,
kind of forgot about that part.
They kind of, yeah, and that's a big part because that's how Gabriel communicates. Because Gabriel can't, I guess, kind of talk. So it talks through the speakers and radios and stuff like that. And I'm like, so it has superpowers. Like I wasn't quite sure, like. Here we go, another thing. So like when she sees Gabriel for the first time like in a long time, and that's kind of like the drawing of it, and that's not too far off of how it looked in the movie. At least like little mouth and teeth and an eyeball and
yeah.
But yeah, so Gabriel is the bad guy, which is her evil twin. But the problem is, which I kind of figured out from the beginning just by the way the bad guy the physique of it was very skinny and thin. I'm like, oh, that's a woman. So I figured it was that same actress who played Maddie, Annabelle Wallace. I thought she was also playing Gabriel. Because I'm like, yeah, that makes sense. They just, like, hey, we're gonna have you do this, and then you find out they use the contortionist, fear. But yeah, but it winds up being Maddie's body doing the killing, but everything's through Gabriel. So everything is the back of the head. So the arms get like flipped around, and the way that she's running is like kind of weird. The legs are like walking all weird, and I'm like, why are they running like that? Like I thought like, oh, they're messed up or something like that. And you find out like, oh, it's just a person running backwards.
Yeah.
It just makes it more stupid. Oh man.
Creative. Very creative. It's funny.
Very different.
Yeah.
Very different. And you know what though? It had really good scary parts. It had really good scary parts in the beginning and in the middle, like legit good scary.
Yeah.
Ending for me was so stupid and so over the top that it was so great. It was just great. Like they weren't afraid to get stupid with it. And James just went like, let's just get stupid with it, like. And then they have a whole thing of the biological mom is involved, and there's a part at the end. I don't know how you felt about this, where there's a gun, blah blah blah, and there's a gun, and Gabriel has the gun, and it's pointed to the sister in her head, and he's like, "I'm gonna kill you," and he pulls the trigger and blows the brains out. I was like, "Holy sh!" Like I stopped laughing at that point. I was like, "Oh my god!" Like that's when like shit got real. I'm like, but then it winds up being like Maddie started using the he's like, "Oh, you can take over my body. I can do it to you," kind of thing.
Yeah.
That kind of trope. So Gabriel didn't actually kill the sister, which I'm like, oh, thank God, because I was like, I like the sister a lot. She was
me too.
Very important to Maddie, like, but also like I think she was a good part of the story, very important. So I don't know what you thought about that when that scene happened.
So when I saw that, when they showed where he's still like dreaming or whatever, and then they cut to like actual live scene of the sister being alive, and she's just like freaking out that a gun is just like pointing to her, and she's just like, oh shit,
Yeah.
like what do I do? Do I stay here? Do I try to run? Like that was nice. That was a real great image to see. That really like put you in the movie almost. I was like, oh snap! Like she did that. You know, that's a big move for Maddie to do something like that, because all her life she hasn't had control of her damn body. So to do something so extreme like that, and turn the tables, turn the other cheek. If you want to go like that. She did great. That was a good part of the movie. Like, man, not that I kind of don't even want to change the way. Like, there's some movies where I'm like, man, if they would have did this, it would have been a better movie. I kind of don't even want them to change the little guy, the little scary guy.
No, he was awesome.
He looks funny, right? Like, really just funny. Like, you can't get scared of this guy. If I saw him in real life, I'd just kick him straight in the face. But but I don't know, man. It's the fact that James Wan, just attacked this movie with such confidence, like just like, yeah, we're gonna have a backwards killer, straight up, and just coked out of his mind. Probably he made it work. Movies can fall apart when you get that creative, but he made it work, as silly as it was. What were you gonna say?
Yeah. No, and that's like that was the thing. Like the movie, especially a scary movie, is defined by its ending. This one was so stupid, so silly. It was awesome for me.
Yeah.
I thought it was so good. So, but the ending is what kind of was good. I didn't hate the movie at the end because of what happened. I was able to enjoy it and then laugh at the end, but also kind of like it was like good. So like just the ending. How did you like the ending? Like, did it fit? Was it stupid? I know you said you wouldn't change much, but
I wouldn't change much. I did like the ending for how silly it was. Sorry for hitting the mic. For how silly it was. My thing is, and like, when you think of endings, you think, oh, are they going to lead to a sequel? Are they going to do this? Are they going to explain more? Is there going to be, an after credit scene? All those things were kind of hitting my head when she reveals like, oh, I'm going to shut you away, blah, blah, blah. Like naturally, which I didn't understand that part. There's so much supernatural and science in this film that they clash a little bit, but what I mean by that is her, the face gets revealed in the back of her head, right? Just like this. And there's a big incision, right? A big cut in the middle of her head. And that's what like kind of opened up to show his face, right? Well, at the end, the face closed up, it got pushed back, and then her back of her head closed up. And that was like, that threw me off. And that really like just straight up was a curveball. I'm like, huh?
Yeah.
You didn't smash the back of your head. I would have, for the greater good, like just, I don't like, what do you do actually? Like in my head, when I first reaction was, oh man, I'm just jumping off the top of a tall building and just landing head first on my back, to kill this thing, just straight up double tap. But the ending, what else happened in the end? The sister does live. Her and Maddie kind of talk, and we're like, hey, they have this heartfelt moment where she's like, yeah, all my life I've been looking for a blood connection, but I've had it in front of me this whole time. Real corny. But again, like it was fitting for what they gave us.
Am
I missing something? I feel like I'm missing something. I saw the ending, but
well, there's the big fight scene in jail where Gabriel gets unleashed. Which was that was pretty dope. I gotta admit, it was very like crazy, and that's what made me start thinking. I'm like, so Gabriel has like superpowers, or they don't really explain that. Which I guess it's always open for a sequel or a prequel, or I don't know. But that was pretty awesome though. Gabriel gets unleashed in this jail cell with all these other women, and they're all like bullying Maddie, and Gabriel comes out and wrecks the place. Like, whoo boy, like no one survives. It was awesome.
No gun. That was amazing. All those cops, and they couldn't take the little skinny lady out, or with the weird face in the back. Yeah. That should have been an open and shut case right there. Just kill her and call it a day.
Yeah,
But
but
yeah,
I like the whole
the
imagery of the bad guy. You know, of the bad guy. It was like a long skinny trench coat. You know, that went all the way down to the ankles. The hair's like all the way down, so you couldn't really see what was going on. Gloves, and then the weapon. I thought the weapon was super cool, where they used
yeah,
an old statue or award,
trophy,
but it was a
the trophy.
sword.
Yeah,
Yeah, it was a sword with wings on it, and the way she was able to hold it was like hold it, and then the wings came out from the side, and then the blade like came out from like between her hand. I'm like, that that just like speaks of like the like Dead by Daylight. Like
yeah.
that's a easy character to throw in there. You know what I mean?
Always.
Like, can like make bright spots turn dark. All the weird maneuver. Cool weapon. I was like, that's a cool image. I can see Warner Brothers like making a cool Halloween costume or something like that. If it's gonna be scary enough, I don't know. It's not like any Michael Myers or Freddy Krueger or anything along those lines, but
It
it
could
was a
work.
cool looking bad guy.
Mm, I
Yeah,
agree.
it could work.
Speaking of which, I just remembered, man. I just remembered there actually is, and it's crazy as it sounds made up too, what I'm about to bring up. But there actually is a killer in Dead by Daylight that is kind of like this movie. You know what the killer's name is too?
Huh.
The twins.
The twins.
Yeah. And guess what? The killer, right? It's the twins, so it's actually kind of two in one. It's just like this. It's a female, it's a woman, right? And she had an unborn undead twin that was a goddamn cancer to her. But then I think something like it died or something at 5 years old, and then she kind of went a little crazy. The female killer went crazy and kept this baby inside of her. And now I think you should put on the trailer actually, man. Kind of show you what I'm talking about.
It's in the game.
It's in the game, man. You could play as a little. So we no longer are allowed to call the little guy. It's called Victor in the game, but everyone was calling him the baby because he looked like a goddamn baby. You want to show that off to the viewers real quick? I got a link if you want to.
Yeah, send it over. That's interesting. That's why I was like, it's the whole idea of like this kind of thing is it's not brand new, but also it's very it's also still like very unique.
Mm-hmm.
There you go. So this a year ago.
So yeah, it's a year ago this killer came out. This is the reveal trailer. These two survivors, they've been in the game. Oh no, the girl, she's new. But that's not the focus here. The focus here is of the actual killer. His name is Charlotte, with her little bro as Victor. And same thing. Look at that thing. Little baby arms, crazy. Even that thing looks scarier than the fucking.
It kind of does.
It's a damn baby. But of course, because of Facebook, my gaming group, we're not allowed to call the killer a baby or say baby killer or use any of those keywords that kind of talk about harm to a young one, and that's not the case. The killer, even though it looks like a baby, it's not a baby. The killer's like at least 20-something years old. It's just it died at 5 years old and still aged. It just never developed. Yeah, so like the baby is inside the breast. It's really weird.
That's not crazy, man. Yeah,
you got to see the gameplay for this person. It's fucking nuts. But yeah, man, I just remembered, man. This fucking idea has been done, kinda. Where a set of twins, where one is a goddamn cancer. Yeah, it's been done, man.
Yeah,
nuts.
And like is evil. It's been done, but this one it's very still kind of different. Does its own thing.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
It was pretty interesting. But cool, man. You want to get into our ratings for it?
Yeah. Let's do it, man. Let's do it. All right. So over here at the Nerd Huddle Podcast Network, we the Spoiler Kings like to review movies a very specific way. We give it a simple 3-tier rating. It's either watch now, it's either a watch later, or a watch never. A watch now means you have to drop everything you have to do and watch this film right away, or else you're gonna miss out on the hype. A watch later means it's not really worth your time right now, but you should watch it at some point. And never just means don't even give this movie a time of day. What you think about the movie, man?
Ooh, man, I am giving Malignant a later. It's definitely not a now. Definitely not a now. But for me, it's a later. I could see other people say it's a never just because the ending was so silly. But for me, that's why I liked it so much, was that the ending was so over the top, so stupid, so silly that it worked. It worked so good for it. Yeah, and Oli saying the same thing. This is a later for sure, for sure. But yeah, this was a good scary movie until the end, and at the end it gets a little crazy, and silly, and kind of makes fun of itself a little bit. But still, it does it so well. It was just like, it's such a stupid, silly movie done great that it was just fun to watch. Definitely a fun movie. So I'm giving it a later. What about you, man?
Oh, for me, when it comes to the movie Malignant, I'm giving it a watch now. Surprisingly, I was definitely borderline. At first, I was gonna give it a now. The first half of the movie is a now, and then you find out the killer, right, and all the silliness that kind of trails, and so it made me like lean towards being a later, but no, I'm gonna still give it a solid now, just for the fact that this movie had all the elements that I cared about. It had great imagery. It had nice, I guess, jump scare scenes. It had great camera cinematography. And even though the ending was so silly, the fact that they went just hard, they doubled down on their silliness. They really did.
Yeah, yeah.
The fact that they did that, that's what gives me a now for this movie. If they didn't go so hard in the paint with this ending, I would have gave it a later for sure. But no, I have to give it a now.
If they would have tried to keep it like scary and silly with what they were trying to go for, I think it would have ruined the movie. Because that's what other scary movies try to do, is like, you reveal who the killer is and it's very silly, but then they still try to be very serious. And I'm like, I can't take the killer serious anymore because you just ruined it. Where this one is like, oh, we're gonna ruin it and we're gonna make you laugh at it, and it's still like, like, have a great time with it, and that's what I thought this one did. But I could see somebody giving it a never, like, it's weird that you gave it a now, I gave it a later, Oli gave it a later as well, but I could see somebody saying like that they're so off put by the ending that it's a horrible movie. I don't think it was, but I could see how somebody could say that, is because you're expecting a scary movie, and 75% of the movie is pretty scary. I would say even like 80% of the movie is pretty scary, and then the last part is kind of like, not scary, but still very good.
Yeah.
So let's see what Rotten Tomatoes got it. So on Rotten Tomatoes, we got 76% on the tomato meter and 51% as the audience score. So the audience did not like it. And even the tomato meter 76, I'm like, okay, yeah, that's about right for the critic. I didn't mind some of that. So for some of the critic reviews, let me see real quick. IGN Movies, this one, Tom gave it a bad review. He said, Malignant is conflicted, miscalculation, bursting at the seams with ideas it never develops to a satisfying degree. Gives it a 5 out of 10. So another person here gives it's Wan style through and through, which is 100%, yet more free than it's ever been. 4 out of 5. And yeah, I'm right there with it. So this one's the Nashville scene. Said he likes to chew on cords. Said this one might not be for everyone. Don't go on a date or eat a full meal before you see this. But for those who are still enjoyed by being knocked out of their chairs by something wacky, distasteful, and whatever fun, Malignant is just about perfect. Which that puts it well. Wacky, distasteful, and fun. Because it's like, but some of the audience, ooh boy. So one of this audience member gave it a 1 or gave it a half a star, dude. This Is this really a movie coming from one of the best directors of our time? It looks like a D grade The Asylum production movie with an unknown cast, which obviously not an unknown cast, because that we just said like that main actress has been
Yeah,
in a few things.
yeah.
But he said the screenplay is the worst aspect of this appalling project, which I do not agree. Somebody else, 1 star, unoriginal, and just plain dumb. The screenplay is bad, the dialogue is worse, and the acting is mediocre. Um, yeah. Awful, bad acting from the beginning to end. We actually thought it was a comedy, laughable, absurd plot. That's just 2 hours of my life not getting back. What a waste of time.
Damn.
And I don't agree with them, man. I think it was just it was I don't know. I liked it. I liked it. I didn't like it because it was a great movie. I liked it because it was kind of like silly. Oh, here we go. Check this out. So I follow E-Man's movie review.
Oh, yeah,
He's a real cool guy. Go check him out. So he's got one a review for this. He goes, Malignant certainly had the best intentions and bunch of potential with original idea behind it. I think it's possible that less experienced horror fans will enjoy Malignant just fine. I do not consider myself at all a less experienced horror fan. I wouldn't I don't know if I would even categorize this as a horror film. More like horror comedy,
Yeah, yeah,
you know? I think the horror comedy, well, even like the Scary Movie, that whole brand was more comedy
yeah,
than horror, but
yeah,
this is kind of like up that the alley. I'm a very experienced horror fan, horror film fan, and
yeah.
I still enjoyed it. I thought it was awesome. He gave it a 5.5 out of 10, so barely good. Um,
Yeah.
but I enjoyed it. I thought it was just so stupid that it was fun.
It's like watching what's that movie, man? The ass to face movie, Human Centipede. It's like watching that. That's a terrible movie. That's just so bad. But you want to keep watching all the crazy and goofy shit that happens. It's like watching Sharknado, and they made how many of those?
Yeah,
Come on,
never
now.
ending, never ending. Yeah,
There's some
no,
movies that are not meant to be masterpieces, but they're meant to have a space, on the shelf, anyways, type deal. What would you
yeah,
say?
yeah. I think Human Centipede probably puts it up there because it really wasn't Human Centipede wasn't a horror film by any means. It was
Yeah,
just gore, and unless you count
that was
just
gore.
gore for the sake of gore, horror, which I don't. It was just a gory film, and it was still I don't want to say a great film, but it's a class. It's a cult classic. I think
Yeah,
there's people that love that movie, and it was a great movie. Very same thing, very silly but good. And I felt like this one was kind of up the alley. So, but I enjoyed the first most of the movie. I
yeah,
thought that was a very well done scary movie. Um, with the imagery especially, and then the ending just got silly with it, and like he doubled down, like you said, and
yeah,
just made it.
yeah,
If he didn't double down on it, I think it would have been bad. But since he
yeah,
doubled down, he's like, "Oh, we're getting stupid in this one." It's like, cool, let's get
yeah.
stupid with it. So, cool, man. Any last ideas or thoughts?
No, no, that's about it, man. I always, damn it, cat. I always try to ask the question like
You?
asteroid, whatever. He has a name.
Excuse you?
I always ask for movies like, hey, with a movie like this, right? And I ask you sometimes, and I kind of already know the answer, but would you watch this one again?
Yeah,
Yeah, I'd watch it
I
again. I'd
I
watch it
will. I
again.
didn't watch it with my girlfriend because my girlfriend doesn't like scary movies that much. I think this one would be up her alley. I think this one is not scary enough where you're like, oh, I can't watch a scary movie. This one I think is I will watch it again. Even like maybe a board night or something like that. I might throw it on just because it was pretty good. I liked
Yeah,
it. What about you? You watch it again?
I'd watch it again. I'd watch it
Yeah.
again just because it was entertaining. It was entertaining, and I didn't expect it. I didn't watch the trailer before I watched the movie. I watched it after the movie, and like you said, the trailer for once out of all these movies we've been doing, they didn't reveal what happened. They didn't reveal any key details or secrets, and it was great. I wish they would do
Yeah.
that more often in movies,
Seriously.
so I could have something to look forward to. But with this one,
Yeah,
they did the
seriously.
opposite. They gave you nothing to look forward to, and then they gave you this I wouldn't call it a circus
Yeah.
show, but it gave you this, right?
Yeah.
This silly thing.
Yeah. I think
That's
the
worth
trailer
watching.
showed some of the oh, you're gonna enjoy this movie because of the cool imagery, and they show the scenes melting or behind her and stuff.
That's fair.
And they set
Yeah.
up a little bit, but yeah, no, I liked it. See, well, the box office, it says, I don't know how they can measure box office, but here on Rotten Tomatoes it says 5.5 million.
Oh,
I don't know. I'm assuming most people would see it on HBO Max. So here's one more question before we end it real quick. So I know you said we would
yeah.
see it again. Since this one was streaming on HBO and it's also in theaters, if it was just in theaters and you would have went to theaters to see it, would it have changed your rating?
Yes. Yes, it would have. It would
Yeah.
have.
I,
Not by a lot. Other movies, I feel like they would for sure. This one, not by a lot. But when you go to the theater, obviously, just at home, you want to be entertained, but you want the movie to be worth, right? You want it to be worth going to the theater. The whole point of the theater is for one of like what 3 reasons. What, you buy stupid expensive food, just to like talk about buying stupid expensive food, and then also watching something on a big screen. Those things matter, right? Your experience of how you watch the movie matter. Did this have crazy action scenes? No. Had pretty good fight scenes, I will say that, in my opinion at least.
not bad.
But
It was fun.
I think if I were to watch this in theater, I would have maybe gave it a later. Even I would have been a little more pissed off that that with the ending like this, it wasn't a straight to DVD type movie or a straight to streaming type movie. I would have given it a later if I saw it in theaters. I would have been a little bit more upset by the fact that James Wan didn't go as serious as I would have wanted something, because when I do go to the theater, I'm just serious. I'm not looking for a funny movie unless it's a comedy. I'm not looking for those takeaways where it's like, yeah, you what's the word I'm looking for? You trade off a little bit of horror or a little bit of gore for comedy. A lot of times that doesn't go too well unless you're dealing with like the Wayne's Bros, like you said. But
yeah.
But yeah, I think it would have changed my rating. What about you? Would it have changed your rating at all?
Probably. Like when I think of like kind of like the same thing. Like if I'm going to see a horror movie at the theater, then I want to be scared. I want to be scared. This I think is the perfect spot for it was HBO Max. Like I feel like that was perfect. It was a movie that was well done, and they spent a decent amount of money on it ish. That HBO Max would be perfect. If I would have saw this in theater, I think I would have been a little bit more disappointed. But since I watched it at home on the couch, not really expecting anything, when it started getting weird, I was laughing and I was into it. If at the theater, I think I would have been a little bit more upset. Which is weird because it would how just where you watch it can change how you think about the movie.
That is interesting.
I mean, maybe yeah. So could I have liked Black Widow more if I would have saw it in theaters? Or would I have not liked Shang-Chi as much if I didn't see it? If I saw it at home instead, I don't know. But also I feel like this one was perfect for at home.
Yeah,
perfect for at home.
I agree.
But yeah, man. Cool. So we don't know what we're doing yet next week. We gotta look at the schedule and see what's coming out. But I know going forward, Venom's right around the corner, so we're gonna do Venom pretty soon. And then we got all the other Marvel movies coming out. Spider-Man's coming out. All the other like whatever Eternals, whenever. But yeah, there's gonna be some good movies in December. Oh, Matrix.
Oh,
Can't wait.
trailer?
Me and Brian watched the trailer on Thursday. So if you want to watch us reacting to it, go to Nerd Huddle and check us out there. I put a clip of just us reacting to the trailer. Man, I can't wait. I love Matrix, so I'm gonna love it no matter what kind of thing.
Me too.
But yeah, Matrix, John Wick is coming out. So December is gonna be a great month for movies. But next couple of weeks we're not quite sure, but we'll be sure to get get you in on the newest blockbuster hit. But for now, we are part of the Nerd Huddle podcast. So we got our schedule right here. So Tuesday, tomorrow, we got Panda and Grizzly. Those guys are going to help you out with your fantasy football and talk some Bears, Chicago Bears stuff. Wednesday, Dynasty Pylon, where they're going to help you out with your fantasy football as well, get you ready before your Thursday game. And they do your Dynasty and IDP football, and they'll help you out with your redraft stuff. Thursday, Did We Just Become Best Friends? That is pretty much the nerd show of the Nerd Huddle, where we talk about all the nerdy stuff, all the trending stuff like that. So that's always fun. It's just get to hang out and talk about whatever we want to talk about, basically. And me and Brian, we go on rants. Like we go on rants. But yeah, we have fun with that, man. And then Sunday, the Morning Spike. Great show that we had this past week. A bunch of people coming in asking us fantasy football questions. So if you're watching this and you're playing fantasy football, go check us out at Sunday mornings at the Nerd Huddle. We have a blast over there, man. There's usually 4, even sometimes 5 of us, and we're just answering everyone's fantasy football questions. And after this first week of the NFL, I'm sure there's a bazillion more questions. So, and then every Monday right here, Spoiler Kings on the YouTube channel. Make sure you give us a sub. And if you want to be part of the show and let us know what you think about all the movies we're reviewing, hit that sub button, hit that bell notification so you know when we go live. And we'll be sure to bring you up on the show. But that is it from us this week. We will see you guys next week with the next weekend blockbuster. But cool. See you guys later.
Can't wait. Later.